Centuries after Earth joined the Interstellar Council, humanity still carried a reputation that many in the galaxy considered both amusing and forgettable. They were seen as creative, yes, but disorganized, emotional, outdated. While other species moved forward with sleek bioships and gravity-bending travel, humans remained stuck in the shadows of their own imagination, using outdated fusion drives and AI systems held together by code that barely passed safety checks. Among the proudest of species was the Arcsani Dominion, known for their flawless designs and formal arrogance. When they sent a cargo freighter to Earth filled with what they called historic technological offerings, no one doubted the true meaning. It was a polite insult, wrapped in ceremonial language. The freighter's holds were filled with outdated parts, cracked hull segments, half-functional reactors, incomplete drive cores, and data chips wiped clean of anything useful. On the surface, it was a generous act, but everyone knew it was just a cosmic version of tossing scraps to a neighbor and smiling while you did it. But on Earth, things didn't go the way the Arcsani expected. The scrap wasn't locked away or quietly recycled. Instead, it vanished into hands that knew exactly what to do with it. In the industrial districts of New Jakarta, deep beneath the rusted towers of the old spaceport, a hidden network of engineers and inventors cracked open, crates with wide eyes and oily fingers. In orbit, above the sands of Mars, the Martian Free Technologists Guild gathered in forgotten hangars and powered up old tools. What the galaxy had written off as waste, humanity saw as raw opportunity. Each piece was turned, tested, scanned, and puzzled over like ancient treasure. The broken systems weren't seen as problems. They were mysteries waiting to be solved. One of the minds drawn to the challenge was Juno Virex, a retired propulsion engineer who had once helped design early interstellar drives before the Council took over Earth's space regulations. Now considered eccentric by most, she lived alone on a floating dry dock tethered to the moon's dark side, surrounded by salvaged tech and her own chaotic notes. When she heard about the Arcsani gift, she didn't laugh. She got to work. With slow patience and old-school intuition, she began piecing together parts from different crates, connecting components that weren't supposed to talk to each other. One night, or what counted as night in space, she fused a fragment of an Arcsani quantum core with a human-built railfield array. It was a ridiculous match. By every known standard, the systems should have failed to even recognize one another. But something unexpected happened. Not only did they sync, they lit up. It started with a flicker of light, soft and pulsing like a heartbeat. Then her instruments spiked. Energy readings jumped past predicted outputs, and space around the device seemed to ripple. Juno froze, watching as the assembled device began to hum, not in a mechanical tone, but with a steady rhythm that didn't match any engine she had ever known. It was as if the machine wasn't just turning on, it was adapting, adjusting, thinking. She shut it down quickly, heart pounding, but the data was clear. The fusion of these parts, considered junk by the Arcsani, had triggered a new kind of reaction, one that ignored certain rules of physics, or maybe bent around them. The discovery didn't go public, not yet, but word traveled through quiet channels, encrypted messages between private forums and whispered conversations in zero-G cafes. Something had been found in the junk, something powerful, and more than that, something different. The engineers of Earth didn't laugh at the insult. They leaned in, curious and focused, because humans had always done one thing better than anyone else in the stars. When given nothing, they made something. And now, with the galaxy's leftovers in their hands, they were about to build something no one had ever seen before. Discovery on the moon's dark side was only the beginning. The humans decided to keep the project secret, working quietly under the radar because they knew the galaxy wasn't ready for what they were about to create. They named it Project Blade, a code name whispered in hidden circles, a symbol of something sharp and cutting-edge rising from the very scrap others had discarded. It was not a battleship or a war machine built for destruction. Instead, it was something different, something smarter, faster, and more adaptable than any starship the galaxy had ever seen. Juno Virex, the retired engineer who had first sparked the idea, became the project's unlikely leader. Around her gathered an unusual team, former military tacticians who had seen the limits of brute force, alien engineers exiled from their homeworlds for refusing to follow strict orders, and young students hungry to prove that humanity could still innovate beyond the stars. They worked in scattered locations, some in underground bunkers on Earth, others aboard derelict stations orbiting Mars or hiding among the asteroid fields. Their mission was clear but challenging: to transform the jumble of old Arcsani parts and human tech into a ship unlike any other. A ship that could think, adapt, and survive against odds far beyond raw firepower. They scoured the solar system for rare minerals and elements, sending scavenger teams deep into asteroid belts and forgotten moons. Every piece of scrap was carefully studied, each line of Arcsani code decoded and rewritten with human ingenuity, turning cold alien algorithms into something elegant, fluid, and powerful. They worked tirelessly, day and night, driven not by orders, but by belief. Belief that from the galaxy's trash, they could craft a masterpiece. Meanwhile, the Galactic Council barely noticed. The political bodies were too busy managing rivalries between the great powers to pay attention to a small project on Earth. Many laughed quietly, convinced that humanity's best days were behind them. What could possibly come from a handful of scrap and a few stubborn engineers? Yet rumors began to slip out, carried by passing ships and curious traders. Some spoke of strange signals bouncing through Sol's space, sensor echoes unlike any known pattern. Others reported brief flashes of light in the darkness between planets, quick bursts of energy that didn't match any known spacecraft signature. And then there were the whispers of probes sent out by various species, disappearing mysteriously without explanation, as if something unseen was watching and learning. The more the rumors grew, the more the council members wondered if Earth was hiding something. The humans themselves stayed silent, neither confirming nor denying. Inside the secret workshops, the project advanced. The blade's hull took shape, not with thick armor, but with flexible, reactive materials salvaged from Arcsani craft, able to shift and absorb energy in surprising ways. The engines were unlike anything else, a combination of the old fusion cores and the new quantum slipstream drive Juno's team had improvised, allowing the ship to move not just through space, but seemingly between the folds of it. The onboard AI, built from repurposed Arcsani control matrices and human neural patterns, was not simply a program, but a partner, learning from every movement and adapting its strategy instantly. The blade was alive in a way no other ship had been. As tests continued, the team grew bolder, sending unmanned versions of the ship further into the solar system, watching as they slipped through asteroid belts and outpaced fast-moving drones sent to intercept. Each success deepened their confidence, but also raised the stakes. They knew the moment the Galactic Council realized what Project Blade truly was, the small project would no longer be a secret. The humans had built something that changed the rules of space travel and conflict, something that could challenge the galaxy's most powerful fleets without a single shot fired. But for now, the blade remained hidden, waiting, watching, and ready. The galaxy might have given Earth nothing but scrap, but Earth was about to show what scrap could become when guided by human will and creativity. The quiet hum of the blade's engines was a promise, a silent signal that the game was changing and that humanity was ready to play. The asteroid belt was the perfect place for secrecy. It was a vast, noisy region, filled with chunks of rock and dust, moving unpredictably under the faint light of the sun. The blade's first true test had to happen here, where it could hide in plain sight among the floating debris, shielded from prying eyes and sensors. Unlike other ships that roared through space by pushing their engines to the limit, the blade moved in a way no one had seen before. It didn't simply burn fuel to speed forward. It slipped through space itself, bending and folding the very fabric of the cosmos around it, making the vast distances between asteroids seem shorter and allowing it to appear and disappear almost at will. The engineers had dreamed of this technology for years, but only now was it becoming real, a result of old Arcsani parts fused with human creativity and daring. As the blade glided silently through the belt, its sleek hull blending with shadows, a challenge soon arrived in the form of an uninvited visitor, a privateer drone from a rival species known for its aggressive patrols near human space. This drone was built for speed and defense, equipped with sharp sensors and AI that could calculate attack and defense moves in milliseconds. It slipped into Sol's space without permission, scanning for anything valuable or weak. The blade detected the drone early, its AI analyzing the threat calmly and without panic. Instead of attacking with brute force, the blade used something more refined. From within its hidden compartments, a salvaged Arcsani beam coil, reprogrammed and fine-tuned using human mathematics, sent a precise pulse of energy toward the drone. The pulse was not a destructive blast, but a targeted disruption that interfered with the drone's control systems. Mid-spin and mid-calculation, the drone's circuits froze, its engines sputtered, and it drifted helplessly. The blade approached, carefully, not with weapons blazing, but with surgical precision. Using compact repair drones, the ship quickly disassembled the rogue drone, piece by piece, ensuring no harm came to living beings, and no unnecessary damage was done. On board, the team watched silently, not cheering or celebrating the victory. Instead, they took careful notes, analyzing every detail of how the drone's AI had reacted and how their own systems performed under real pressure. This was not about winning battles with loud explosions. It was about mastering control, efficiency, and adaptability. The blade was not designed to dominate by sheer force, but to outthink, outmaneuver, and outlast any challenge thrown at it. Each test that followed was a lesson. Systems were adjusted and upgraded, software rewritten, and hardware refined. The ship became more than a sum of its parts. It grew smarter, learning to anticipate threats and adjust its responses in real time. Its materials, once rough and mismatched scraps, transformed into a flexible, reactive armor that could absorb or deflect energy without adding bulk or weight. The engine's signature, once unpredictable and raw, became a whisper in space, impossible to track unless you knew exactly what to look for. The blade was no longer just a ship. It was a statement, proof that with ingenuity and determination, what the galaxy discarded as trash could be shaped into art and power beyond imagination. Word of the strange happenings in the belt spread quietly among spacefarers. Ships reported fleeting glimpses of a ghostly silhouette slipping past them, a ship that could vanish into asteroid shadows or disappear faster than any sensor could lock on. No one knew who built it, but everyone felt its presence, an invisible challenge to the old powers of the galaxy. And so, in the quiet depths of the asteroid belt, hidden from the eyes of those who thought humanity was weak and outdated, the blade was born, not with explosions and battles, but with silent grace, precision, and the unmistakable spirit of those who dared to turn scrap into legend. The Arcsani Dominion had never expected anything significant from their gift to Earth, believing it to be a polite dismissal rather than a challenge. So, when one of their ambassadorial scouts returned to pass through Earth's sector years later, what they discovered was far beyond their assumptions. The region surrounding Earth was no longer quiet or unremarkable. Instead, it was guarded by a complex network of encrypted drone swarms, invisible to most sensors, weaving intricate patterns in space like a digital net. Alongside this, strange gravitational signatures rippled through space, twisting and warping in ways that puzzled even the most experienced Arcsani navigators. It was clear that Earth had not accepted the scraps quietly. Something new and powerful had emerged from their hands. To send a message that was both a demonstration of strength and a warning, the blade, Earth's secret weapon, uncloaked suddenly, high above the planet. It was a move both bold and careful, designed to avoid breaking any of the Council's laws, yet send a clear sign that humanity was no longer to be underestimated. The ship performed a series of intricate maneuvers that looked like a dance in space. It bent and twisted through invisible currents, moved with a speed and grace that left observers breathless, and executed patterns that defied expectations of what a ship built from scrap could do. The Arxani diplomats and observers watched in stunned silence, their carefully held confidence shaken. Publicly, the Arxani scoffed at the display, calling it a harmless trick, a childish attempt by humans to gain attention. Yet behind closed doors, their feelings were very different. Frustration, anger, and even fear simmered among their leaders. The Arxani demanded that the blade be dismantled immediately, citing Galactic Tech Accord Article 7, which regulated the use of unapproved technology within the Council's jurisdiction. They argued that the ship violated numerous safety codes and threatened the balance of power. The humans, however, refused outright. They argued that the blade did not violate any laws and was a symbol of human innovation and resilience. This defiance angered the Arxani further, leading the Galactic Council to schedule a tribunal to examine the dispute. The political tension was palpable. As the date of the tribunal approached, the Arxani increased their presence near Sol, sending patrol ships and intelligence probes in a clear show of force. Then, unexpectedly, an unauthorized fleet of Arxani vessels crossed into human-controlled space, claiming their actions were for containment and security. The move was a clear provocation, and it sent shockwaves through Earth's Defense Command. The blade, ready and waiting, was launched, not as a weapon of war, but as a means to resolve the mounting misunderstanding before it spiraled out of control. Unlike other ships that might respond with firepower, the blade approached the fleet with calculated precision. It moved swiftly through the formations, its engines silent, its presence a challenge without aggression. Instead of attacking, the blade disrupted communication channels, severing links that coordinated the Arxani fleet. It used advanced decoys and gravitational manipulation to confuse sensors and navigation systems, effectively neutralizing the fleet's ability to organize. An offensive, the blade's actions were surgical, designed to disable without destruction. The Arxani commanders found themselves outmaneuvered, their impressive fleet reduced to scattered, confused ships unable to carry out their mission. No lives were lost, no ships destroyed, yet the message was clear. Earth was no longer a powerless backwater, and the humans would not be pushed around. The blade's silent but overwhelming display forced the Galactic Council to reconsider its stance. The tribunal was postponed indefinitely, as leaders on all sides recognized that the old balance of power was shifting. What had been given as scrap had become a blade cutting through arrogance and underestimation. Earth's quiet defiance had rewritten the rules without a single shot fired. The Arxani Dominion, forced to accept this new reality, retreated with grudging respect, and the blade returned to its hidden docks, ready for whatever challenge came next. In the quiet aftermath, humanity understood that they had not just built a ship. They had forged a new place for themselves among the stars, one shaped by wit, resilience, and the refusal to accept less than their true potential. The Arxani fleet had entered human space, expecting one thing: obedience. They believed Earth would comply quietly, accepting their dominance without question. They saw no real threat, no challenge worthy of their attention. What they didn't expect was to face the blade, a ship unlike anything in the galaxy, forged from leftovers but wielded with extraordinary skill and intelligence. The blade moved through the battle like a shadow, dancing effortlessly between the massive warships of the Arxani fleet. It wasn't a fight of sheer power or destruction. It was a game of precision and strategy. Instead of firing powerful weapons, the blade struck where it hurt most: the fleet's ability to communicate, coordinate, and attack as one. Using a combination of sophisticated decoys, gravitational shifts, and cleverly reprogrammed Arxani technology turned against its own creators, the blade began to unravel the enemy's defenses. Communication relays blinked out one by one as the blade slipped past sensors and jammers, cutting off the fleet's nerve center in silence. Targeting systems failed spectacularly, unable to lock onto the agile ship that seemed to vanish and reappear at will. The blade used gravitational distortions to confuse navigation computers, causing warships to drift apart in confusion, losing formation and focus. Every move was calculated, every action designed to disable rather than destroy. No lives were lost, no ships exploded in brilliant flashes. Instead, the blade demonstrated something far more dangerous, the ability to control the battlefield, without firing a single lethal shot. The Arxani commanders grew frustrated as their fleet fell apart under this invisible assault, their pride wounded far more deeply than any physical damage could cause. Slowly, their grand fleet became a scattered, ineffective force, unable to regroup or mount an effective response. They weren't defeated by weapons, they were outmaneuvered by intellect and creativity. As the confrontation ended, the Galactic Council's tribunal became unnecessary. The footage from the Blade's engagement with the Arxani fleet was broadcast across the galaxy, showing clearly that humanity's response was not reckless violence, but calculated mastery. Council members and leaders from many species watched in disbelief and respect, their assumptions about humans shattered by the elegance and precision of the Blade's actions. Humanity was no longer the primitive backwater they had once been, dismissed as. Instead, they had proven that with ingenuity and determination, they could take the scraps the galaxy discarded and build something extraordinary, a masterpiece of strategy and technology. The Arxani, humbled and forced to reconsider their position, withdrew their demands and accepted the new reality. Earth had shown it was no longer a minor player, but a force to be reckoned with, capable of shaping the balance of power through brains and courage rather than sheer force. The Blade returned to its secret docks, silent but ready, a symbol of human resilience and creativity that would echo through the stars for generations to come. What began as a gift of scrap had become a legend, a reminder that underestimating humanity was a dangerous mistake. They had built more than a ship. They had built hope, defiance, and proof that sometimes the greatest power comes not from what you are given, but what you choose to make of it.